Time for Business. Cami Knight is here in the studio. Good evening to you, Cami.
Hi,
Great
Mark.
to see you. A report out today shows the rate of women hired into leadership positions globally has slowed down once again. Tell us about this.
That's right, and it has done for the third year in a row now. That's according to LinkedIn data that shows the hiring rate is now back to where it was in 2020. The findings were published in the World Economic Forum's Gender Gap Report, which estimates that gender parity currently lies 123 years away. The data shows women hold less than a third of top roles, despite making up almost half of the global workforce. LinkedIn says it should ring alarm bells for economic growth. Now, for more on this, I'm joined by Sue Duke, Global VP of Public Policy at LinkedIn. Sue, thank you so much for joining us on the programme. Now, there are several factors at play here that explain these findings. What are the ones that stand out to you?
You're absolutely right that the top line finding in today's report is that for 3 years in a row now, we've seen a drop in the number of women being hired into leadership roles globally. And of course, that comes on the back of real momentum that we've seen throughout that surge in hiring during the COVID period. But since then, of course, we've seen this economic uncertainty take hold. And what we've seen historically in our own research in LinkedIn and what study after study has repeatedly shown is that when there is economic stress, we see a drop in the number of women being hired into leadership roles. To be clear, it's not that in those periods fewer women are applying for leadership roles. It's that different hiring decisions are made when there is economic pressure on the system, which means fewer women go into those leadership roles, and we see this gap growing just like we have over the past 3 years.
And so what would you say the sectors that are most affected by this decline are?
Yeah, we have seen that this broad drop in hiring of women into leadership roles is playing out across a number of sectors. It is true that some sectors perform better than others. What we see over the past number of years is education, government, retail. They are all sectors that are performing better. However, even in sectors where we see a strong representation of women at leadership level, we still see that there is this gap. Education is a great example. At entry level in the education sector, we are at 60% women. So women are significantly outnumbering men at entry level. But by the time we get to the C-suite, men are significantly outnumbering women in the boardroom. There, even in education, we're only at about 40% female leadership. So even those sectors that are doing well comparatively, we still have a lot of work to do, and we need to ensure that we're investing in breaking down these systemic barriers that women are facing at every stage of their career, right up to the boardroom.
So really across the board there. Now, what's at stake here? How does excluding women from the workforce, or at least these leadership roles, how does that impact economic growth?
We all need to be concerned that we are seeing this growing gap in gender in leadership, because study after study has shown us that more women in leaderships means more productivity, more innovation, more growth. And at a time when we do have this economic stress, when we are facing this transition across a whole range of areas, this is precisely the time when we need to be investing in women to ensure that we are making the most of all of the human capital available in all of our economies. So more women in leadership means more growth, means more competitiveness, precisely at the time when we need it today.
Can you give us a sense, just very quickly, of kind of some of the solutions?
3 key areas to think about when we think about how we're going to get to grips with those systemic barriers that our women are facing from the moment they walk into their first job right through up to the most senior level. The first is tackling bias. A huge part of the issue that we need to get to grips with is breaking down bias, unconscious bias in hiring decisions and in promotions. Secondly, investing in flexible work. Part of the problem that women face is they assume a disproportionate share of the responsibility of caring duties. And so ensuring that both genders have access to flexible work policies at work will make a big difference in women's careers, particularly at mid-level. And thirdly, finally, really important that we invest in mentorship and in sponsorship of women, again, not just at those senior levels, but throughout their careers, investing in hot housing programs to ensure that women are getting the support, the mentorship, the role modeling that they need so that they can advance throughout all stages of their careers. That remains absolutely critical.
I'm afraid that's all we have time for, but thank you so much for providing your insights, Sue. That was Sue Duke, Global VP of Public Policy at LinkedIn. So as you can see there, Mark, a long way to go, plenty of solutions. And of course, I'll be back with more business news later.
More from Cambria later. Thanks to Sue Duke with that wonderful insight. What a great woman and what a great example for, all young girls to follow. And it's crazy that society closes the door on more than half of the population. It's absolutely nuts, isn't it? So, power to the cause, and more from Cami later, of course, here on France 24.